Hi, my name is Dwayne with Emigh Hardware in Sacramento, California, and I wanted to talk about something that's seasonal at this time of year in the hot weather, and that would be water plants. Water gardens make a nice addition to a landscape, and they can add that extra dimension to your garden of water, which adds to like a cooling, soothing sensation. So I'm a big fan of water plants as well as the low water use plants, but at this time of year we're going to concentrate on the water plants. So I have a great selection today, and I wanted to go over some of the individual species with you, and then we're going to talk about where they're going to want to be located in a garden, and then we're going to also probably assemble a little water planter garden arrangement. So roses are known as the queen of the garden, but I have to say that Lotus has to be the empress of the water garden. There's really nothing quite like this. It's really a magnificent flower, and it has a lovely fragrance to it, and they don't flower that often, so it really is kind of a rare treat to have in a water garden. The other thing is, out of all of the water plants that are the big leafy water plants, this one is probably the tallest with that large flower. These are able to go dormant outside in wintertime, and then they come back out of dormancy in spring, so it's a really good perennial for our climate. The next one down is going to be your hardy water lilies, and these ones also grow under the water, and their leaves come up to the surface and they spread across the surface, and then it produces lovely flowers in lots of different colors, pink, orange, yellow, white, and kind of a pale red. Those also are able to go dormant in the wintertime and then come back out of dormancy in spring when the water warms up. Then we also have other plants that are leafy and spreading and flowering. These get purple flowers on them. I've got some water irises. I've got, believe it or not, Canna Lilies, so big and leafy, tall, flowering. These also do well with their roots submerged in water and growing out of the pond. Taro, also known as Taro. So these, there's several different leafy varieties that lend themselves to a beautiful exotic look. Some of the hardier ones that are a little bit tougher are going to be your grasses and your sedges. So this is Papyrus, and there's a couple of different papyruses. I've got the giant papyrus, and I have a dwarf giant papyrus today. And then we have cattails, and I have two different types of cattails. I have an elegant cattail, which has a slender flower stalk, which are your catkins. And then I also have the one that has the fatter flower stalk. I have more lotus and more water lilies, beautiful orange right there, some more yellows and pinks. This is my dwarf papyrus right there. It's very cute. Oh, this one is an East Coast native, does very well here. This one's called Royal Pickerel. It gets this beautiful blue flower in the summertime. Flowers profusely. I have stargrass, which has that beautiful white flower on it. Then I have several interesting choices right here. So this one is the primrose creeper, and this one gets a yellow flower on it. I have a California native right here, and it gets a white flower on it, and it's called Yerba Mansa. And then I have a lizard tail, and this one, when the flowers are new, they have a slight fragrance of vanilla to them, so another nice dimension to have in the garden. These are little floaters, and this is called water lettuce, and they will spread by having these little side shoots, and so that's how this one spreads. And this one's not invasive like the water hyacinth, which is not allowed in Sacramento County for being an invasive species. And then one of my last favorites, and this one's going to be a summer annual because it just doesn't handle the cold winter water, but mosaic plant, and it is really quite stunning to look at visually. And then another last one, and this one grows from under the water and up to the surface, and this one is Parrot Feather. And that one could be considered an oxygenator. So I brought up a few different terms, and you've seen a wide range of plants. So not all of these plants are going to be want to be planted at the same depth. There's different depths for different things. So the deepest thing that I have for water depth is going to be the water lilies, the hardy water lilies. And these can handle being submerged to about 30 inches, so about 2.5 feet under the water. That's going to be about the depth limit on these. Then Another one that's going to be submerged and come up is going to be the Lotus, but they like to be planted fairly shallow. They like to be close up to the surface where the water's a little bit warmer. The Parrot Feather and the Mosaic plant, they can be submerged about the same depth or a little deeper than the Lotus. And then most everything else that I have is going to want to be closer to the water surface, which is known as a marginal plant, because they're growing along the margins of a water system. So in addition to the water plants that we just took a look at, I brought over some of the regular landscaping plants that we sell here at the nursery that would work well as marginal plants around a pond because they do like larger quantities of water, and some of them are natives to California water systems. So a couple of them, Coleus could handle its roots constantly being damp. It's in the mint family, so that's a great choice for a shady spot. These two are the same, but just happen to be different colors. These are Creeping Jenny, so I have the Goldie and I have the regular Jungle Green. These work really well along the margins, and they're really quite a tough plant, and they can handle a wide range of sunlight. So this one's a California native, so this is a type of rush, and this one can handle being wet, but because we're in California and it originated here, it can also handle extended periods of drought, but this one does work very well in water gardens. This one is one of the milkweeds, and this one is a hybrid of a Mexican milkweed, so the butterflies do like this, but this one also can handle its roots in constant water and grow out of it. This one is a cousin of this plant back here. This one happens to be a dwarf horsetail reed, and very cute. Again, keeping the roots wet perfectly fine. This one is New Guinea impatiens, and they also are a high water consumer, and so they work well along the margin of a water garden. And then of course horsetail reed, which we see around town, that's a good choice as well. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make an arrangement for what I would consider a patio water garden. So we're going to choose 3 plants to go into here. This is a watertight vessel with no drain holes, and we're going to go around and we're going to pick out 3 plants, and I'm going to assume that it's going to be in probably about half-day sun. So we'll choose some plants. I'm going to want something that's submerged. I'm going to want something probably lower. I don't know if it's going to be a floater or if I'm going to choose a plant that's going to kind of spill out over, and then I'm going to want something with some height to it. So let's go pick out some plants. So now we're going to plant up this container garden for a patio, and I chose my 3 plants. I'm going to do a hardy water lily, I'm going to do this chameleon plant, and I'm going to do the ruellia. I think the leaves are going to look complementary with each other, and they all will like the same amount of light, which is going to be some of that afternoon shade. I'm going to start with my ruellia and putting it towards the back, and it is suspended on top of a terracotta pot. I've got my chameleon plant, and that one's going to grow over the edge. And once I get this set in place, I'll be able to top it off with water, and it'll be ready to be enjoyed. So a couple more things I wanted to mention. One is, don't use potting soil like you would normally use for your houseplants or soil that you would use for planting in the landscape. There is a special soil for pond plants, and this one is low in organic material, so you're not going to have a lot of that stuff floating to the surface. And I do carry that, and it's dense, and so it doesn't float out. The other thing that I do add, if I'm not going to have any fish in this water garden, would be mosquito bits. So this one's a beneficial bacterium, and it does a good job of controlling the mosquito larvae and preventing the adults from establishing habitat. So those are the 2 things that would be good considerations to include in your water gardening. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed an introduction to water gardening and the water plants. It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.